We're live.
All right. About 10 minutes away from the episode. Episode 5?
Episode 5,
Episode
yes.
5. What's the title?
The Interrogation.
The Interrogation. Episode 5, The Interrogation of the Case. Episode 4, April and Kevin certainly had a lot of feedback, a lot of interest. As I said before, just a tremendous amount of interest down in South Carolina. I mean, even this morning, I still get so many messages and texts and stuff from people there. And I know we were featured in the newspaper down there in Seneca as well. So we'll see. I think this will be a buzzworthy episode as well. Episode 5, as I said to Steve, we were texting back and forth about it. I think, not, I mean, giving it away really. I mean, you're going to hear it in 10 minutes anyway, if you're watching this. I think it's unusual in the middle of a podcast series where somebody has a chance to sit down for an hour with one of the main characters or people of interest in the series. And that's what we get. An hour-long interview with Kevin and me and Kevin in this episode and others in this episode. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong and it happens all the time, but it feels unusual.
I think
Plus the polygraph, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an unusual episode for sure. And I also think it's kind of interesting for people to know behind the scenes that it wasn't our original plan to drop this episode when we're dropping it.
Yeah, I thought you meant the original plan not to do the polygraph. Yeah. So that's a good point. We were originally going to do a 2010 interview that Kevin had with a team of private investigators hired to look into Jennifer's case through the Molly Bish Foundation, I think is when they started.
I believe so.
Charlie Castro, Michelle Littlefield, and they've been working on Jen's case for, I think, 15 years, give or take, right?
Yes.
05, 06 or something. So they talked to him and some others in a hotel in upstate New York where Kevin was at the time, Walton, New York, where his brother is. And that's what, a couple of hours of an interview? 2.5 maybe?
Yeah, 2.5 hours.
It was very good. It was really compelling. And I think you'll be able to hear most of it, see most of it on video at the Case podcast if you want to go watch that. I don't know when that's going to be there.
Yeah, we're just rendering. There's some stuff that we had to remove from it. There was some information that people didn't want available, but it'll be up later today.
Our issue with it was, while it was compelling, the sound from a podcast perspective, we were doing it, and I really wanted to do the episode. I mean, we took notes at page after page of stuff we wanted to hammer and get to and talk about. And then by about Wednesday, the middle of the week, I made a decision that I was like, we just can't, it's just the sound of it is so, it's just tough. I know as a podcast listener, you're kind of doing this the whole time. And it's after a while, it wears you out. And I think it will become the defining thing of the episode, even more than the content.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if people complained about a little bit of wind in some of the earlier episodes, they would be concerned with this. But I also think, like, you know, it's a 2005 era camcorder and they're recording in a hotel room and, you know, the air conditioning is going. So it was very, very difficult sound to treat, even with, you know, all the different filters that you can possibly try to apply.
Yeah. So
when you're watching the video, though, you can understand what's being said.
For sure. Yeah. The video. Yeah. No, it's true. And that was the first part. The second part is things are moving at sort of a speed down there. I wasn't sure this episode, well, I think is unbelievable, this interview, interrogation, whatever you want to call it. I think 3 weeks from now, not that it would be less relevant, but we may know even more. So we wanted to get this up as soon as we could because I think it's really, we almost originally thought we were going to conclude with this. But we bumped it up 2 or 3 episodes, probably 2, because I think the 8th episode was always going to kind of be a where we are, big picture thing. We moved this from 7 to 5 in the series. So, so that was an interesting call, and so that's what you're going to get today. In episode 4, you know, I would say just a couple of notes for us. I think a lot of that was some of the most surreal stuff we dealt with. I mean, we were in a garage where a woman had died, talking to her husband. We were looking at autopsy photos, you know, on a truck with this family. It was definitely sort of the time where I felt like, boy, we are real. That trip was where, like, man, we are really in the middle of this and doing stuff that I didn't think we were going to be doing, but we did it, and we're really proud of episode 4. It seems like a lot of people like it, and I do think, and it's great. A lot of people down in South Carolina. I just had a long conversation with someone last night who feels like they've been victimized and the police haven't helped, and similar stories. And when you hear stuff like that, and you think, well, at least our goal, I think, Steve, was to A, do a really good podcast, get a lot of listeners, but B, to bring some attention to these stories. And I think for sure, you know, it seems like we've done that. So
yeah, I think so. And one of the things that strikes me about episode 4 is that when we were down there doing some of those interviews, like you didn't or at least I didn't immediately see how this was going to fit into the story. And there were, you didn't have as much information as we have now.
Yeah.
So it's like looking back on some of those interviews, it's like, oh, we should have asked this, we should have asked that. But
Right.
there was so much that we didn't know. Like ultimately, some of those interviews, like about April, like when we first heard about April, we weren't sure if there was any connection to the story that we were telling.
I'll tell you exactly what happened is Faith's aunt, Jen,
Faith's aunt?
Yeah. Is she an aunt, Steve? I'm giving the other crowd.
Oh, an aunt or an aunt?
Which one is she? Down the
I
south?
think she's
That's
aunt.
an aunt. Oh, it's an aunt down
I think it
there?
might be aunt.
Okay. Brought us over there. She kind of gave us a tour. Remember? We were, because that was almost at the start. Remember,
I think it was the first
remember
trip
we met
down.
you.
Yeah,
at
that was the first trip in Walhalla.
Did you put your car, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
Oconee County Correctional Facility.
Yeah, right. So we did that, and then we were just no, you followed us. Remember, because we were at some gas station, an abandoned gas station.
Oh, yes, correct. Yeah.
So we went all over the place, and then we went over there. We kind of knew the story, but not really. And then she walked us through it, and that's Pam was there that day. We looked at all those things. Then we started saying, geez, this is really strange. And yeah, I think that was sort of a big day for us. So, but you're right. I think there are things that we didn't ask, that we didn't know. And there are also things that were said to us that at the time didn't seem important, but then later on
looking
seemed
back,
really
become
important.
very important. And none more so than...
you'll hear it in the trailer of this episode. I'm sorry, in today's episode 5, in the next on the case stuff. Yeah,
yes.
the teaser for potentially week 6 or beyond. You'll hear that stuff for sure. Is there any other case stuff, Steve? Any other notes you wanted to get to?
Do you think that we'll be in Walhalla next week?
I don't know. Do you? I legitimately
I'm
don't
not sure.
know.
It's tough. It's a tricky thing to predict how fast some of these things can move.
True. No, it's very true. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised if we were here. I wouldn't be surprised if we were there or there the week after or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it all depends on what certain people do and don't do. So, I was pretty vocal about. I thought Oconee County needed to reopen and look at those or classify these not as accidental deaths and at least take a look at them. It seems like they're inching that way for sure. Having talked to people down there and getting an idea of what's going on, we don't think April Jones and Kevin Craig, their deaths were accidental. We just don't. So, in addition to Faith down there and Laura Anders and Tammy Stubblefield, I mean, there's a lot of missing women down there in Oconee County, and that needs to be addressed. And, of course, not forgetting Jennifer Fay up in Brockton. And the episodes have kind of gone Brockton, Walhalla. Last episode was Walhalla. This is a little bit of both because you get a lot of, Jennifer's a big part of this interrogation as well, and as are Faith. And April and Kevin are mentioned as well, but it's sort of Faith and Jen are sort of the two people discussed, I think, the most in this one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people who are really into the case will definitely get a kick out of watching the 2.5-hour interrogation.
For sure.
That we'll put up at thecasepodcast.com later. If you're following us on social media, we'll let you know on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, when that video is going to be available later today.
And in this particular episode, as is the series, is sponsored by Taser. The Taser Pulse Plus is a non-lethal self-protection device that is small and lightweight enough to carry with you or in your glove compartment or purse, yet powerful enough to incapacitate an attacker. Taser's Pulse Plus is safe, easy to use. Use an electrical charge to immobilize attackers for up to 30 seconds, allowing you time to escape, and send emergency dispatch to your GPS location. Protect yourself and your family with Taser's Pulse Plus self-defense product. Taser Pulse Plus is available without a permit in most U.S. states. Taser Pulse Plus at taser.com, promo code THECASE. Taser.com, promo code THECASE. So you go to taser.com right now, and you enter the case as your promo code. You get 15% off, 15% off, TASER.com, promo code THECASE. So episode 5 is up right now, Steve. All right, so go watch it. We'll be back next week, or later this week, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give you 2 episodes this week. Next one will be a little longer. We'll react to this episode. I'm sure people have plenty of questions. We'll react to those as well. If you have questions for this episode, you can certainly tweet them at the Case Podcast next time we're on, or to our email account.
The Case at barstoolsports.com is an email account that you can get in touch with us.
Yep.
Or DM the Twitter account.
Yeah, right.
That's an easy way to get a hold of us.
Yep.
And if you've got questions, you can post them in the chat. There's a million ways to get a hold of us.
Okay, so go listen to episode